Jrue Holiday has been traded to the Portland Trail Blazers for Anthony Simons and 2 second-round picks. Another trade in the NBA, another big trade, big moves and implications. I want to talk about how it affects the Chicago Bulls. How does this trade affect the Chicago Bulls? Obviously, Boston having the injury, to Jason Tatum, knowing that they have to get off some of this money, had to make a deal like this. But getting back a guy like Simons, who is a for sure 20-point scorer, who is a guy that can actually be your guy in that fourth quarter, and getting some picks with that as well, feels like Boston, didn't do too bad in this. But how does this affect the Chicago Bulls? And before I get into that part, talk to me about the trade and how you feel.
Yeah, the trade's super interesting because I think for the Celtics, they realized they, one, are going to need more scoring without Jason Tatum next year. And so they did so getting younger, getting cheaper, which is big for them because they're going to need to duck the second apron, if not the luxury tax altogether, and just add some more dynamic shot creation. They can't just be Jaylen Brown, dribble the out of the ball and score. They're going to need more guys. And obviously, Simons is a very poor defender, and so that will be an interesting fit on a Celtics team that really prioritized defense and switchability 1 through 5. But I think they just add a really interesting piece that they're going to be able to grow with. This is a future-oriented move for them. He's obviously a very young player who still has room to grow. So I don't know. I think the Celtics, I think they are still going to be making more moves, whether that's Porzingis, Sam Hauser, Jaylen Brown. They are, maybe even Derek White is somebody that, it doesn't seem like they're going to trade, but if they get a haul, I don't think they could say no to that if it puts them in the right situation. So I wonder what they're going to look like and how that affects the standings in the East, right? To me right now, Anthony Simons, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Porzingis, that's a better team than what the Bulls are. But if you continue to strip it down for parts, at what point does it put them in the same category as the Pistons, the Knicks, some of these second-tier teams, and not in the same category as the Cavs, who are the clear, and I think the Pacers before Halliburton, the clear top seeds in the East. So I think they're maybe a move or two away from falling back into that group. And so I'm very curious to see how that goes. And Shams was saying that they will remain aggressive and remain engaged on other moves. So he says the Celtics remain engaged in trade talks surrounding multiple key players on the roster. So I just think there's going to be a lot of action, and I wonder what you think about just where the Bulls now stand in the East.
Yeah, and I think that's the first thing I thought when I saw this trade. Does this move the needle at all for the Chicago Bulls in the East? I don't think so, because I am a big fan of Anthony Simons, man. That dude can play, especially when it's down in that fourth quarter. And you need a game-winning shot also. He is that kind of guy. He's done that a million times in Portland. It's just been the injuries that have really kind of derailed him, in his career. But the dude, I think of Kevin Martin and players like that when I see him play, just the scoring ability I'm saying that he has. So that's what I would think of. And I've always liked Kevin Martin. He was always one of my favorites. But I don't think – obviously, you remove a true defensive stalwart like Jrue Holiday, a leader like a Jrue Holiday, a guy that will do anything to get you that victory. But as far as I'm thinking, regular season, when the Bulls are playing them, I don't know if it truly affects that game. If they go into that game and I'm I think the Bulls will win that. I don't think it changes that feeling for me as far as Boston is concerned. And also where Boston will kind of be in the East. I still see them as a top 4 team in the East. They might not be number 1 or anything like that. That definitely might be Cleveland and Indiana that we're looking at. But they're still a top 3 or 4 team, at least right now, as I'm looking at it on paper.
Especially with Damian Lillard also out, especially with Tyrese Halliburton also out. The East is wide open. But to me, the interesting part about this trade wasn't really the Eastern Conference. It was more the Blazers and what it means for them.
That's what I was going next.
What was really interesting is obviously the Bulls have this pick from the Lowry Markkanen trade, which was a lottery-protected first-round pick from, I believe it was 2021 through 2028. And so if it falls into the lottery every year, the Blazers keep it. But if they make the playoffs and it's outside the lottery, the Bulls get it up until 2028. If it doesn't convey by then, it becomes a second-round pick.
Right.
And the Blazers, like the Bulls, put together a really strong run down the stretch.
Sure.
I was looking back just earlier this morning. They kind of pulled the plug on the last 10 games, but from late January to beginning of March, starting actually in with a game against the Bulls, they put together a 19-11 stretch in 30 games where they had a 5.6 net rating. Denny Avdia was going out of his mind.
Yes, he was.
They were one of the top 5 defenses in the league. Tumani Kamara, Donovan Clingan. You bring Jrue Holiday in and add him to the mix. Like, this is a very interesting team now, and I wonder if certainly I think they view themselves as a play-in team, and I wonder what that means now for this pick that they owe the Bulls.
Yeah.
And so for me, my first thought was maybe the Bulls are going to get a second pick next year. They, have their own pick, which will probably be in the 10 to 15 range, as
Hopefully
has
higher.
been.
Yeah.
But then maybe they also get the Blazers pick, which, if they make the playoffs as the 9 or 10 seed through the play-in, that's going to be the 15th pick, which is super valuable. And so that's a real asset that the Bulls now have that, it may not end up conveying, but it could be really valuable. And so my next thought was, well, the Western Conference is still just absolutely a bloodbath. I think the Memphis Grizzlies are going to take probably a half step back without Desmond Bane, but they won 48 games last year. They're still really good.
And still weren't satisfied.
The Sacramento Kings probably going to make some moves here with DeRozan or Levine or something like that. Malik Monk, I don't imagine they will be in that same mix. They were playing team last year.
Shout out to the
Mavericks are going to be missing Kyrie for almost the whole season. I wonder what happens to them. Could they creep into the play-in? Sure, but does that guarantee them a chance to make the playoffs and then convey that pick? No, it doesn't. And so I was thinking, should the Bulls now look to turn around and trade this pick that the Blazers owe them, because it probably has never had more value than it does right now. If teams are thinking Blazers are going for it, they're going to try to make the play-in. This could be the 15th pick next year. Even though there's a real risk that it doesn't happen, that could be more value. And I think it might be wise for the Bulls to try to get something for it now that's guaranteed to be better than a second-round pick, which is what it will turn into if it doesn't convey. So 2028 comes around, the Blazers still haven't made the playoffs.
Sure.
All the Bulls are getting is a second-round pick.
Right.
If it looks like it could be the 15th or 16th pick next year, now's a good time to trade that, package it with something else, and move up in this draft. Or another trade I was thinking was, would you do that Blazers pick for 19 this year? Guaranteed to be a top 20 pick. The Nets have 4 picks in the first round plus a mid-30s pick. They don't want to make all those, and they have 1 pick next year of their own.
Yeah.
Could they kick the can down the road and hope to get another mid-first round pick and give up one of their own this year? That's something that I think both teams could potentially be interested in. Nets may want to consolidate and move up in this draft first, but if not there, that could be something that the Bulls look to do. Or maybe, as we talked about on our previous show, the Bulls use the Blazers pick, attach it to 12 to try to move up and go get Kamen Malawach or another player. So I think that there's just some creativity now, and yes, it would be really nice to get the 15th or 16th pick in next year in addition to the Bulls pick, but I wonder if they shouldn't be more creative with that and try to guarantee themselves something, because although it looks like there's more upside, there's still a chance that all they end up with is a second.
That's true. And that's definitely what I was going to ask you, was how did it affect this draft with the Chicago Bulls? And you mentioned even trading up, because our guy Jake Fisher mentioned that the Bulls, that he's hearing, quote, fresh whispers that the Chicago Bulls may be trading up, in this draft in their pursuit of size. So with this Portland pick, you're saying they can combine that with this one and maybe trade up to go ahead and get that size? It could affect this draft?
Maybe it's the Nets. They want an extra pick next year. Maybe it's 12 in this Portland pick for 8, and Malawach is there, and you take him, and you feel pretty good about that. Or maybe, like I said, it's picking up the 19th pick for that Blazers pick, and now you have 2 picks this year, and you can move forward knowing you're guaranteed at least a first-round pick out of this trade, which you weren't feeling great about 3 days ago, whenever the Blazers made this trade. So just interesting food for thought, but it's also just kind of interesting to see how interconnected all these teams are, right?
Sure.
When one team in the East makes their move with one team in the West, it actually does affect the Bulls in a variety of different ways.
Yeah, really does, man. We're excited to see how it affects them even further. So we'll see how it goes for the beloved Chicago Bulls.